Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Toma Todito Show. I'm Head Cali, and this is episode 14, a brief recap episode on what we just saw between Terrence Crawford, Terrence Crawford, and Special K, Kell Brook. Awesome fight. It was a pretty fun fight to watch for as long as it lasted. But first, before we jump into that, let's look at what was set to be the co-headliner. And I'm referring to Joshua Franco versus Andrew Moloney. The premise to this and the setup to this fight was earlier this year, June 23rd, they ended up facing each other. Joshua Franco, Andrew Moloney had a tough back and forth fight for approximately 8 rounds, if I remember correctly. Back and forth, very contested, a lot of good boxing on both ends, and Joshua Franco ended up pulling away and starting to take control of the fight in the later rounds, including he dropped Andrew Moloney in the 11th round and ends up walking away with the title and the decision that night, with the victory by way of decision that night. And that's June 23rd. So fast forward, they are set for their rematch and a big card as the co-headliner to Terrence Crawford and Kell Brook. And here we go. We're excited. The setup, the storyline, everything was perfect for this fight. And we end up getting approximately 6 minutes of boxing in this rematch between Franco and Moloney. And it ends up being a debacle. It's a mess. There's a questionable clash of heads that supposedly takes place, and there was a clash of heads, but it was on the wrong side. It was on the opposite side than that which ended up swelling up on Joshua Franco. Nonetheless, that headbutt, that as they catch on the replay several times, and ESPN was sure to keep showing that replay, and they were trying to search for the moment in which that eye began swelling, and it was evident that it was a jab. It was actually a straight left hand, if I remember correctly, from Andrew Moloney, which cost, it was right to the eye, right to the socket. Even Tim Bradley at one point is saying that's a poke to the eye, that's a thumb to the eye. Nonetheless, it was a punch that ended up causing the swelling and numerous jabs. Andrew Moloney's jab was on point tonight. We get 6 minutes of boxing. It ends up getting sent to instant replay. That the Nevada State Athletic Commission has recognized instant replay for several years now, and they're present. They're starting to review this, or they took it to review on at ringside, and it takes nearly half an hour for them to decide after looking at these replays over and over and over, and you're looking at them, and you even listen to the commentators, Andre Ward, Tim Bradley, they're going back and forth, and they're like, why is this taking so long? They're doing their own research. Joe Tessitore is looking at the replays, and he's calling them out. He's like, I just don't see the headbutt. They find the headbutt. The headbutt ends up being to the wrong side of the face, which ended up swelling up. So it was the opposite side. Nonetheless, Joshua Franco ends up the victor here, even though it's a no contest. They end up declaring a no contest after a full review of nearly half an hour to be able to make the call, and they end up making the wrong call. And this is what upsets fans all around the world about the sport of boxing, that they hesitate to make calls, and when they do make a call, they think they're playing it safe, and they end up making the wrong call. And the no contest, which Andrew Moloney, after so much work, after coming back, he looked like the better of the two fighters tonight, and it was just 2 rounds of action, and Andrew Moloney took control of those 2 rounds, and he was determined to get that title back, and he ends up not taking it home because of the decision of the Nevada State Athletic Commission. They declared a no contest, therefore the title cannot change hands. Joshua Franco retains his title by way of this decision that the commission took, and the fight ended being a mess. What what had so much promise. The fight had so much promise. This rematch has so much promise to be one of the best of this year, similar to their first fight, their first action-packed fight that we saw earlier in the summer. So we end up getting that, and that was the decision. Nearly half an hour to make a decision, and they make the wrong one at that. And then that leads us into the main event. The main event of the night, of course, Terrence Bud Crawford versus Special K, Kell Brook. And amazing hype and noise behind this fight. I was super excited to see it, and it delivered. We knew that it possibly wasn't going to last the entire way, but if it did, if it would go to a decision, it was possibly gonna be favoring Kell Brook by way of that jab. He's very good, very fast, and very quick to establish his jab. And he's been known to do that and prove so throughout his career. He has a very good jab, very stiff jab that he's able to basically control his opponents with and use it as a rangefinder for his power punches. And he was quick to get inside that pocket, start testing Terrence, and he established his jab. By the second round, Terrence Crawford had figured something out. He started moving well, his angle started functioning well, and his punches started landing. He started functioning and basically adapting to the speed and the flow that Kell Brook came out with, and started landing some big punches of his own. By the fourth round, although Kell Brook landed some really good punches on Terrence Crawford, he ended up cutting Terrence Crawford's right eyebrow, just beneath his eyebrow, and that little gap between his right eyebrow and like the top portion of his eyelash. He ends up getting a decent cut right there. Kell Brook imposing his power, decent speed. He showed up and he just got caught. Who knows if the previous injuries that he suffered to Gennady Golovkin and back-to-back fights, right, with Gennady Golovkin and then with Errol Spence, who knows if that has anything to do with how he received this punch today, or was it just a well-placed snap of a punch that Terrence Crawford caught him with? And he has the power to prove so as well, right? As he's proven in the past, he has the power to switch momentum and take over fights. Terrence does. So who knows if this is going to be something that's going to linger around and affect the rest of Kell Brook's career, or if this is something that he'll be able to overcome and he'll have a successful career from here on out. And this was just another great elite top level fighter that ends up figuring out angles and has power from any which angle that he decides to throw his hands from. Terrence Crawford walks away with the TKO victory in the fourth round, ends up hitting him really hard with an awkward punch, ends up sending Kell Brook stumbling into the ropes, and Terrence Crawford smelt the blood and went after him, stops the fight. Terrence Crawford victorious again, and he is at the top. In my opinion, he is at the top of the welterweight division. Very good challengers, and a very good fight coming up in a few weeks' time between Errol Spence and Danny Garcia. We'll get into that in a different episode. Again, to me, those two are possibly, along with Keith Thurman, possibly the best opposition that Terrence Crawford could face. Nonetheless, post-fight, Terrence Crawford calling out Manny Pacquiao. He wants to fight Manny Pacquiao, and he wants Manny Pacquiao's name on his resume. Elite fighter, to me, Terrence Crawford, number one, pound for pound, fighter in the welterweight division. I have to put Canelo overall, Canelo number one, Terrence Crawford number two. And that's across all weights, all weight classes. Nonetheless, Terrence Crawford is up there. He's making a really good argument for himself, and he's definitely become a force to be reckoned with, and you can't deny him anymore. Just because a promotional company has not done a good enough job to get his name out there and make him a household name doesn't mean that he is anything short of spectacular and extraordinary. He is an elite level fighter, and I believe that they should be doing him justice by promoting him better and making him a household name. Everybody should know who Terrence Crawford is, and we need to enjoy his boxing, his talent, his career while he's here, while we have him here. With that said, we'll go ahead and close this episode out. Thank you guys for tuning in once again. Episode 14 of the Toma Todito Show, and plenty more to come. Thank you again. Good night.